You know, I was back at my parents' place recently, and I found this tucked away in a box. That's me. I think I was about 17 there. Looking at that guy, I remember exactly what was going on in his head. He was so unsure of everything. He had all these questions about his future, his career, about who he was even supposed to be. And if I'm being totally honest, he was terrified most of the time. I wish I could just sit down with him for 5 minutes. If I had the chance, here are the 3 things I would tell him. The first thing I'd tell him is to just slow down, to stop rushing towards some finish line he'd invented in his head. I'd say, the magic isn't just in the destination. It's hidden in the grind, in the unsexy, daily work that nobody sees. I was so completely obsessed with the idea of success, that dream job title, the validation from others, the picture of what I thought my life should look like, that I completely despised the actual work it took to get there. I saw the daily practice as this boring, frustrating obstacle standing between me and where I wanted to be. It was a chore, something to endure, not something to experience. I have a vivid memory of trying to teach myself how to play the guitar. I saved up for months to buy this second-hand acoustic, and I had this romantic vision of myself effortlessly playing songs for friends around a campfire. But the reality was callous fingers, clumsy chords that sounded like a cat fight, and the painstakingly slow process of reading tablature. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed after just a week, my fingertips throbbing, and I felt this wave of sheer frustration. I wasn't good now, so what was the point? I wanted to skip ahead to the part where I was already good, to the applause, to the result. I didn't appreciate the small, silent win of finally nailing a G chord without it buzzing, or the muscle memory slowly forming in my hands. I was deaf to the tiny improvements happening every single day because I was only listening for the sound of the finished symphony. What I know now, that I desperately wish I knew then, is that the person you become is forged entirely in those daily, seemingly insignificant moments. It's not the trophy on the shelf that defines you. It's the discipline you build on a random, boring Tuesday afternoon when no one is watching, and you don't feel like showing up, but you do it anyway. That's where real character is built. That's where resilience is born. The destination is just a brief moment in time, but the process, the journey, is where you actually live your life. It's where you learn patience, perseverance, and what you're truly made of. So I'd tell my younger self to fall in love with that, to find the joy in the struggle itself, to appreciate the slow and steady growth, because that's where all the real transformation happens. The results, I've learned, they truly do take care of themselves. This next one is a biggie, and it's something I think so many of us struggle with silently. I'd have to be really gentle but firm with him, and I'd say, listen to me. You are not your output. Your value as a human being is not a number in a bank account, a grade on a test, or a line on a resume. You matter simply because you are you. I had built my entire identity on what I could achieve. My sense of self-worth was this fragile thing that went entirely up or down based on my productivity. If I had a day where I checked everything off my to-do list, I felt like a good, worthy person. I could relax. But if I failed a test, or if a project I was passionate about didn't get the recognition I hoped for, or if I just had an unproductive day where I felt lazy, I felt like a complete fraud. It was this exhausting, relentless roller coaster where my own self-esteem was the prize I had to earn back every single morning. I'll never forget the first time I truly felt that crushing weight. I had applied for this internship, my absolute dream role. I'd poured weeks into the application, practiced for the interviews, and I was so sure I had it in the bag. When the rejection email finally landed in my inbox, it felt like the world just stopped. It wasn't just disappointment, it was a deep, personal indictment. My mind immediately spiraled. They saw right through you. They knew you weren't good enough. You're not smart enough for this path. You are a failure. I felt like a total imposter, not just for that job, but for every aspiration I had. I genuinely believed that single outcome was a verdict on my entire being, proof that I was fundamentally broken and destined to fall short. It took me years, and a lot of painful unlearning, to finally understand that failure is not an identity. It's just data. It's feedback on a single action, a single attempt, in a single moment in time. It's not a life sentence or a verdict on your soul. That rejection wasn't about my worth. It was about a skill set I hadn't fully developed yet, or a fit that wasn't right, or simply just bad timing. My inherent worth, my capacity for kindness, my curiosity about the world, my dumb sense of humor that makes my friends laugh, that was all still there, completely untouched by that rejection letter. It existed before it, and it remained after. I had to learn to separate my doing from my being. The things I accomplish are things I do. They are not who I am. And part of that is understanding that rest is not laziness. Taking a break is not a sin. Constantly hustling isn't a badge of honor. It's a fast track to burning out the very light that makes you, you. I'd tell my younger self that it's okay to just be. To sit with a cup of coffee and stare out the window without guilt. To spend an afternoon doing absolutely nothing productive, but everything that feels nourishing. Your value doesn't diminish when you are still. You are allowed to just exist, without having to prove anything to anyone, especially not to yourself. And for the last thing, I'd probably have to give him a little shake. I'd look that anxious kid right in the eye and tell him, "Stop caring so much about what everyone else thinks. The opinions of strangers are the heaviest weight you will ever carry, and I need you to put it down. The truly right people, the ones you're actually looking for, they aren't going to love a version of you that you made up. They will love you for exactly who you are, quirks and all." I spent so much of my energy, an exhausting amount really, just wearing a mask. I curated a personality based on what I thought would be acceptable. I dressed in a way I thought would help me blend in. I pretended to like music I didn't actually enjoy, and I'd even nod along to opinions I completely disagreed with, all for a few crumbs of validation from people whose names and faces I can't even recall now. I was so desperate to be liked that I forgot to figure out if I even liked them. The constant performance was draining the life out of me, and I was left with this hollow feeling, because even when the act worked, the approval felt empty. It wasn't meant for the real me. I remember this one specific, cringy time in a history class. We were discussing a topic I was actually really passionate about, and had done a lot of reading on outside of school. I had a perspective I knew was different, and a point I really wanted to make. My hand was halfway up, my heart was pounding in my ears, and I could just feel the eyes of everyone in the room. And then I caught myself thinking, what if you sound stupid? What if they all think you're trying too hard? What if your voice cracks? And I put my hand down. I stayed silent. I muted my own voice because I was so preoccupied with the potential critic in the back of the room, a critic who probably wasn't even paying attention. I traded a piece of my own curiosity for the fleeting comfort of anonymity. I chose fitting in over standing out, and it's a moment I've always regretted. The liberating truth, the one that took me a long time to learn, is that judgment from others is actually a fantastic filtering system. The people who are meant to be in your life, your real tribe, they aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for authenticity. They will be drawn to your weird, wonderful, specific self. They'll love the strange hobby you're passionate about. They'll appreciate your unique perspective, and they'll be your safe space to be vulnerable. The ones who are critical, or who make you feel like you have to shrink yourself, they are simply filtering themselves out of your story. They're doing you a favor by showing you, early on, that they don't belong in your inner world. Their opinion is a reflection of their own limits, not your lack. The cost of pretending, of constantly editing yourself to be palatable to everyone, is your own individuality. And that individuality, the unique spark that makes you you, is the most valuable thing you possess. It's your currency for genuine connection and real creativity. Don't you ever trade that away for the cheap, mass-produced approval of people who don't matter. The freedom you'll feel when you finally stop contorting yourself to fit into spaces you were never meant to be in is unimaginable. It's the freedom to finally breathe, to take up space, and to attract the kind of people who will celebrate you, not just tolerate you. So that's what I tell him. I tell him to embrace the messy, beautiful journey instead of just fixating on the finish line. I tell him that his worth is inherent and unshakable, completely separate from anything he produces or achieves. And I tell him, maybe most importantly, to have the courage to be fully, unapologetically himself, because the right people will find that person magnetic. And if you're watching this, maybe you see a little of yourself in that photo. Maybe you're 17 right now, feeling that same uncertainty I did, staring at a future that seems both huge and blurry. Or maybe you're 25, in the thick of trying to build a career and find your place. Maybe you're 45, and you thought you'd have it all figured out by now, but you're still learning and unlearning things about yourself. Wherever you are, I hope some of this lands. I hope it helps you skip a few of the long, hard lessons I had to learn the difficult way. I hope it gives you permission to be a little kinder to yourself, to be a little more patient, and to trust your own path. Because the beautiful, funny thing I've realized is that the person you're meant to become isn't some distant, future version of yourself you have to tirelessly build from scratch. That person is already right there, inside of you, has been there all along. It's your intuition, your quietest hopes, the things you get excited about when no one's watching. We just get so busy, so loud, so focused on the external noise and the expectations, that we forget to listen. You just have to stop, every now and then, and tune in. That version of you is waiting to be acknowledged, not built. I'm genuinely curious. What would you tell your younger self? What's the one piece of advice you needed to hear back then? Share it in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'd love to hear your story and learn from your journey too. If anything I said today resonated with you, if it felt like a little nudge or a deep breath, it would mean the world to me if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It might seem small, but it truly helps this community grow and helps me keep making content that matters. Thanks so much for watching, for your time, and for listening. Truly. Now go take care of yourself.